Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief. Happy Monday morning. It is Monday.
RationalInvestor.com's
Daily YouTube. That's good to see. So here we are, Monday, the 7th of October. Going to be a bit of a funny week here. I know in Canada we celebrate Thanksgiving. I believe it's the second week of October. But also, too, in the States, they have what they call Columbus Day. Mind you, of course, it's probably going to be changed to Indigenous Peoples Day or something along those lines coming up as well. So a little bit of a funny trading week here this week. Splotchy holidays here and there. And unfortunately, everybody, my apologies, but I had my computer crash on me just about half hour, 45 minutes before the broadcast. So unfortunately, I've been spending the past 20 minutes or so just trying to get my head back on straight here, make sure that I have all my ducks lined up. So if I kind of fumble things today, I'm sorry. Got me caught off guard a little bit here. Relatively late econ day. You can see there's an Australian data print out later on, I guess, this evening. I hope you guys enjoyed the Down Under report by Johnny Salmon and the crew. Down Under, I thought they did a really good job. Also, too, not a bad commentary from them about very, very choppy market state right now. Direction is kind of difficult to determine just at present. So lack of news today. We do have FOMC minutes coming out on Wednesday. So you can also see there's going to be a lack of significant news drivers tomorrow as well. So probably might even consider it like a backfilling kind of session. Sort of intermediate news. We do have Fed's speakers. Powell's actually got a speech coming up here in about an hour or so. So that's probably going to move the market. But like I said earlier, we got another Fed speakers. Looks like Powell's speaking a couple times here over the next day or two. We won't have significant news, and probably my hunch is that they're going to use these speeches to sort of set the market up for whatever the meeting minutes were. Probably the biggest thing that we're going to see sort of news-wise is going to be talk about Fed-related, that is, and economic data-related, that is. That's just going to be about Fed speakers and getting us ready for the minutes on Wednesday. I did notice when I was going through the headlines this morning, there is theoretically a Chinese delegation now in the U.S. Getting ready for big trade talks coming up here. So that's probably what's going to be dominating sort of like the short-term sentiment. And, frankly speaking, I was pretty surprised. Let's see where I can show this. I guess if we go here. Things are ratcheting up kind of ugly in Hong Kong. So I don't know whether that's being used as a bargaining chip or not, but this person, Kyle Bass, I saw people posting this out on Twitter and stuff like that. So I was, and in the lounge, that's what I meant to say. So thank you for posting these updates and stuff. But man, things are really getting a little bit crazy over there in Hong Kong now. So they invoked emergency regulations, and police are coming down hard. Could this have stuff to do? Have spillover with crypto and Bitcoin and all that? Very, very possibly. I've always tried to make the connection of sort of Chinese instability and Bitcoin price. And I did see Bitcoin did rally up here this morning, so we'll see how that goes. But really interesting to see how the Hong Kong situation seems to continue to spiral out of control. Today is Monday. So right out of the gate, probably a bunch of position squaring. I do see that on balance, risk-off assets are taking a bit of a pause here today. In risk-on assets, we started to see stocks rally a little bit through late Friday. And it looks like oil's catching a bit here this morning, and it looks like Bitcoin's trying to find some sort of floor here. So with that said, I don't want to cut too much into them because I really like seeing Sjord's perspective. But today is Monday. It is the basically the beginning of the week, so we should get a good dose of site update news and also what Sjord's seeing in the Bitcoin price here. So Sjord, you on the call with us here this morning?
Hey, good morning, Brian, and the rest of all the members.
Hello, sir. Nice to hear your chipper voice. Was thinking we'd give you the floor. Do you want to screen share or anything here this morning?
Yeah, let me screen share something.
Okay.
1 second, because I think you will have to move over to my screen. Let's see. Here we go. Present now.
Alright, so here comes Sjord. Okay, hold on a second. Just give me a second here. Give me a second. Gotta put everything all up in line. Okay, so I think we are now sharing your screen, car crashes and the like.
That sums up my day, basically.
Oh, no.
That's perfect. So for all the people who already noticed, this morning or yesterday we had some Rocket Chat issues with Rocket Chat not liking some file uploads and crashing here and there and putting a big load on the server. Because we're still some versions behind, basically a major version on Rocket Chat. I tried upgrading this morning. Everything seemed to go well, but then all of a sudden it didn't. So I've reverted all the changes. Restored a backup because I couldn't downgrade anymore. And because of that, we lost some messages that were posted overnight. Hence the notification in the lounge. So sorry for all that. Next Saturday, we're going to give it another try with some reinforcement troops on my side to help me out with the upgrade, because it's a bit of a bigger upgrade than usual. That involves migrations to different MongoDB versions and Nginx proxy that is being a bit of a pain at the moment. So we're postponing it and trying it again on Saturday. So that was my crash day basically today.
Oh boy. Well, it's kind of weird actually because my computer just crashed. Kevin said his computers are giving him trouble. We should get Shane on here and get a Mercury retrograde update. I wouldn't be surprised if Mercury is in retrograde right now.
At least Bitcoin didn't crash, so that's a good thing.
Well, that's one encouraging thing.
So last week I hope to have all the screener stuff live today. I missed that deadline because of Rocket Chat. But we made some good progress on that. Besides the screeners that then will go live this week, we also made some good progress on fundamental data. So we have fundamental data in our database that we first will use basically to just tag the markets by the sector and industry. We did a big migration of user data. We did several bug fixes on the dashboard, and there are still bugs around, like with resizing widgets and all that, but we're working on it. And we are just basically making progress on that side. So I hope next week that we can be chatting on the new Rocket Chat major version that should fix a lot of issues with the screeners on the dashboard again.
Okay, keep our fingers crossed.
As for market commentary, if that's okay.
Sure.
I just saw this coming in 38 minutes ago. Goldman Sachs advises buying pound versus dollar. And I'm always like, why do they publish this now? So basically what they're saying is the chances on a no deal are very small. So we expect the dollar to rally here, basically, I guess, against the US dollar.
The pound, you mean?
The pound. Yeah.
What the hell's the damn symbol of that? They always keep changing these future symbols. B6. So Japanese yen is 7. British pound is 6. Why? I have no idea. But okay. I don't really see much on this chart, but what do you see?
So what I see on this chart is not that much either. Besides that, we are in an interesting area. But I don't see anything to take a long trade here.
Remember, Goldman Sachs usually we used to have a rule: whatever Goldman Sachs says, do the exact opposite.
Yeah, but so I've drawn this trend line on the monthly for market structure, and this is on the daily that I'm now looking. And even if I go back on the weekly, I mean I can't find any time frame that justifies a trade. But we are in an interesting bottom location, that's for sure.
Basically against the bottom end of that range, eh?
Yeah, exactly. So it might be interesting to see what's happening the coming days, weeks, in this level. But at the moment, it's just
that tail looks awfully suspicious.
This one, yeah, I know. So maybe we can do something like this, and then confirm the W and break out of the channel. Sure. That would be nice. But it's something that I'm going to keep an eye on the coming weeks, just to see how it develops, and just to see why did Goldman Sachs posted this now. I do find it a bit suspicious, to be honest, because there's so many.
I put a little note right on your chart there. Goldman Sachs says buy British pounds, and then let's look at it like a month from now and see what happens.
Yeah, that's a good idea, and let's make it red because just because. Then moving over to Bitcoin, what I found interesting this morning is I was like, oh, whoa, we're making some railroad tracks if we close here. And those railroad tracks basically evolved through the day to a bullish engulfing candle here. So if we manage to close here, this is a full engulfing bullish candle.
I'm a stickler about this. I mean, candle-wise, yeah.
Officially.
It's not really an engulfing bar. I don't know why the candlestick guys like doing this, but okay. I'll buy it, but I don't agree. But anyway.
You would love it to be a bit more down here?
Well, to be an engulfing bar, it means the previous action has to be engulfed.
Yeah, totally engulfed.
But I do see some people like to use the candle bodies, and if they see a body that's engulfed, they call it engulfing bar. But remember, Brian's an old-timer stickler. Yeah. And it really changes to a bar chart, and you'll understand why I don't call this a... there is no engulfing bar there. So. Yeah. But having said that, let's see what happens. I mean, if it works, then great. So also too, because of the and this is interesting because you're looking at this versus euro. Does this change versus USD? What does it look like versus British pounds? So looks like your engulfing bar disappears on US dollars.
Yeah, on some exchanges.
Yeah, and you might find that, So, and then, this is the very odd nature of Bitcoin, but it might look different across different exchanges. I also heard, too, that Phoenix did a big tether print today, so I wonder if Phoenix's chart looks slightly different, too.
Yeah.
So, but sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
Oh, no problem. Let's quickly grab that as well. It basically looks all the same. And the low of today's candle is a bit different. But what I do like across the exchanges is that the RSI and the MACD and the Willy giving the same signals. So I don't see a big difference in those signals. What I'm seeing here basically is that the Willy is oversold. The MACD, we got some divergence to work with. And the RSI signal that I look with the lower Bollinger Band. So this is an important cross here for me.
Yeah.
And a nice W that gave the signal here.
Yeah.
And so that is supporting a bit of a bullish thesis. But I would like this candle to be confirmed. And ideally tomorrow, I would like to print another green candle. And then I would be happy to take a small long position. Because then I expect what to happen is that the RSI will cross this midsection as well tomorrow. And the MACD will flip bullish. And the Willy will move out of oversold territory. So then I would get my reasons to take a shot at on the long side. But the institutional bias, it's still pointing down. So nothing to get too much excited about this. But with a trade like this, what I really like is one of Linda Ratchford's rules. And that says basically that if you enter the trade and it doesn't move into your direction within 3 bars, then you might exit the trade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch for the signal tomorrow and then paper trade along. I would try to get in on this level here and then risk or target the 50% retracement of this down move. And then I'm going to watch if within 3 bars, including the one from tomorrow on, it will move into my direction or not. And then place my stop below this with some margin, just to be sure. So then I will either exit my trade on the break of these lows, or I will exit my trade if within 3 bars we don't move the direction to the long side. So that's basically what I'm playing with at the moment, and I want to see how this plays out for Bitcoin.
Sounds good.
And by communicating it like this on the daily brief as well, it gives me a nice extra motivation to follow the plan and not deviate from it, so I can update you guys next week on the results of this.
Love it. Love it.
That's what I'm seeing for Bitcoin.
Cool. Now, if you change that to a line chart, does the fact that we just made a new low there, does that give you any pause?
On the closing, yes. I mean, we did make a new low. You're totally right. Let's see how this looks on the weekly. We got this, I guess. Not much here, not much here, not much here. So the weekly isn't really supporting a bullish case at this moment. The RSI is still trending down. We crossed the midline section, so not much there. The MACD is not flipping, nothing. Oh, wrong chart, wrong panel. And the Willy, it can just keep moving lower. So if I take this long, it would just be a little bounce play to that 50% retrace level and walk on basically the filling or the new low of this low.
Yeah.
So I'm not taking this long and then expect the long to be sustainable to new all-time highs. It would just be a play in a longer downtrend for me.
Probably if you did a 50% level off of that low back up to that high there, what month is that? That's in September. That September high, that's probably not a bad...
From the September high?
Yeah, up in there back against these lows, whatever that 50% level is.
I don't know what my template is. So 92177?
Probably somewhere, yeah, looks like it. Maybe even a test of that underside of that most recent breakdown again.
This one.
I guess we've been kind of thinking that too, that at some point the market should come back and brush up against those lows. So.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you made a good comment with the line chart. It does look a bit nastier than with the candle chart.
Yeah, I just... if anything, what I'd love to see, I love your RSI Wing. And now, if anything, we want to see a W now come in on price. Kind of like what you said, where, if we can just get things to calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
And W out, then maybe we got something to work with. I did notice that things like Litecoin and Ethereum, they're trying to put in Ws too down here. So might enjoy a nice little counter trend rally window here. I noticed too my little daily is still pointing down. 4 hour looks like it's trying to turn back up here. So probably the resolution of this, I think we call these two candles a tweezer bottom, but I'm not positive. But the two candles on your left-hand side of your screen there, and that's Litecoin you're looking at?
It's Litecoin.
Yeah, see, Litecoin's got a little bit better of a little bottom there on the both the line and the close line. It also has your RSI W there.
Yeah, and it didn't make that new low that Bitcoin did.
Sorry?
And it didn't make a new low like Bitcoin did?
Yeah, like, just leave that screen up.
Sorry.
Well,
sorry.
I mean, we can work off the right-hand screen. But remember I talked to you guys, and seriously, I mean, I'm not here to tell you, hey, Brian's awesome chair. I'm here to tell you tools that I've seen work before. And notice Sjord's RSI. I've talked to you guys a little bit about this. I should probably articulate it a little bit more. But can you see the first W that comes in? So the first, right there. So that's the first W. That sort of stops the bear slide. And then the second W is actually your trade. And then notice how that's flirting now right with your little midpoint of your study there.
Yeah.
So, and if I look at Litecoin's price chart, you can see on the right-hand screen the W. I mean, there is a level to work with there now. And I have been seeing a lot more chatter about people talking about bottoms coming in on this stuff. So, we might just have a little bit of a bottom come in here. But, I guess one thing that bugs me about all this is you can see this bottom coming in on like almost no volume. Actually, I think you were just drawing that, right?
Yeah.
So something it smells a little fishy about this. But nonetheless, I mean, if you hunt W's and RSI divergences and all that kind of stuff, it's there.
Yeah, and also for me, for the RSI, you can see that these Bollinger Bands, they got this big range, right? And then it compacts or subtracts, and then it widens a bit. And because it's this wide, I don't expect violent moves back to the 50% line. It would just be more like a slow price action because there's no real compression building in the market at the moment.
Okay, that's an excellent observation. That's cool.
So I'm not expecting to be in any hurry either.
I could see a repeat of the price action that we had there back in September. So she puts in the W, she works her way up. We spend like a week or two talking about, is it a bull? W's are in, and then all of a sudden, boom!
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me one bit, but we'll see what happens.
So what I then would like to see if something like that happens is that basically these lines would start narrowing down.
Yeah.
And then the RSI a bit flirting and then break out to the upside. Basically like it did here, for example, and it did here.
Yeah. Okay.
Then you usually get some more violent moves if this range is small enough.
That's
channel.
Cool.
So, yeah.
That'd be great to put together like 3 or 4 slides showing that compression and then what happened afterward. That would be a really great module.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, sir. Anything else you'd like to add to the equation, or do you feel like you've said your piece?
No, I've said my piece, and I'm looking forward to upgrade all servers and be up and running on the latest version again.
Silly Rocket Chat, and I hate this about this website, and it's just, what can you do? You just yell at the karma gods. But we get like, man, we've seen this happen about 3 or 4 times, eh? We get ramped up, we're right up, all right, everything's rocking and rolling, and then something sets us back. And we're set back another week or 2. God damn it.
Well, we will get there.
Well, that's good. I'm glad we've got the Lego and PMA on our side here. So,
Okay.
okay. Thank you very much for that presentation and that report. Excellent stuff as always, sir. Thank you so much. Let's see. I should go over here. And then I will move the screen over here and we'll put this back over here and hopefully this works. Let's see what we're doing here. So right now OBS is showing my screen. And now I have to somehow, why am I seeing Seward's picture there? All right. Now hopefully you guys in the Hangout, do you see the my charts? Your screen is still visible to others. All right. Oh, resume presenting. Okay. I think I should be presenting now.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Okay. So Seward's given us the call. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. As I had said earlier, my computer crashed just before we got the daily brief going, so I lost a whole bunch of cool charts that I had up and running there. It's probably going to take me a day or so to get everything back. So I think I'm probably just going to do just a quick overview of what I'm seeing here, just based on what I have on my screen. Let's see, where should we begin? Broader market, just a quick overview. US dollar index fractaled out last week on those poor econs, so we're slowly working our way back down here on the dailies. We should probably keep an eye on the weekly. Now, do we fractal out up top here on the weeklies? You can see we've started out this week with an inside bar. We've seen this happen in the past, right? We could have fractaled out here, but we inside barred and we resolved higher. So it's only now through this week that we'll see whether this weekly fractal even develops. And this is going to be one of those sort of lines in the sand kind of idea. If we lose the, and really it'll be ultimately whatever this low is. If that's the low, then so be it. We don't even have a bar to even establish a fractal. So here you can see there at least was a level to work with. We're not even at that stage yet. So we're going to have to keep this sort of floating out here. Just watch wherever the ultimate low is through the week on the US dollar index. And then conversely, if we confirm the inside buy higher, then it means up we go. And we've talked lots about this. I talked about it in recent broadcasts and even on the Broiler Chicken show. You can see we are now into reload zones. So we're finally up into areas where if institutions are going to short, this is probably where they're going to be active. We had little AB equals CDs and a funny little harmonic that are all suggesting up into this sort of 100 area. Big fat round number. Shouldn't really surprise us to see action into that level. And then also there's big honking gap that's basically in the process of being filled in right now. So my hunch is Kendall bodies like to fill in these gaps. Also notice too there's a cheeky little gap right up top here too. So a little bit early to put a fork in the US dollar. And obviously way too late to be a buyer. And then the exact opposite scenario, and it's interesting that Seward says that Goldman says come out and buy the pound. I think you could make the argument same sort of thing off of the euro. Here was that sort of corresponding gap to the US dollar index on the euro down here. Still a little bit further away from there. We did actually make a new clothesline low here. So if we go 9, right? We actually did break to a new low here. So I don't know whether euro is really ready to get its mojo going. Same sort of thing as the US dollar. V bottoms usually need to be tested. So we should see how that test goes. And as we said a few minutes ago, there are some pretty juicy events down here that need addressing. So this same sort of thing. You can clearly see where the tops are, where the market broke. Lower highs and lower lows defines a bear market, blah, blah, blah. I think we're still a little bit early calling bottoms here. I suppose while we're at it, it is interesting to see that comment from Goldman Sachs and all that. I suppose this was the actual referendum. I guess all through here. Establishing lows and level twoers, you just did this. If you can think about things like institutional fingerprints and taking markets back to levels, clearly this is some sort of important level on the British pound here. See, they really didn't want it to go any lower. So if we just draw up a bunch of these horizontal support and resistance lines off of this level, then we go and look and see where we are right now. Oh, gee whiz. Look how the market, every time it sort of stabs into this level, it just keeps getting rejected. I suppose, like if you are a professional, money manager looking to try and be a buyer down in this area, and just simply risk to, I guess, a closing basis down into here, it's not a terrible idea. And kind of like what Sjord was suggesting, and what I'm thinking is, if you did want to entertain that idea, probably best to draw your reload zones. Where are we here? RLZ, there we go. And notice there's a cheeky little gap right at 61.8. Candle body lows. You hear Brian talk about candle body lows for trade location, 78.6. So, I mean, I don't think it's a terrible gamble. But, if anything, what might end up happening here, this is exactly like Druckenmiller's gold trade. I could very easily see, we work our way into that event. The knee-jerk reaction is actually down. Notice this AB equals CD will take us right into that area. My hunch is, on any kind of Brexit event, keep in mind that it is coming up here. Where are we? I guess technically the official date is like right in here, right? So any kind of dump into that event window, I actually think sets up actually a very interesting potential event here. Sort of sell the rumor or buy the news kind of scenario. So I'd be watching for that. That's not a bad chart, especially all of our British members. And I'll even post this in the lounge just so you guys have it. As Sjord sort of pointed out, this is probably a chart we want to keep an eye on. Let's, as Sjord even said, we'll say GS says bye. And my hunch is that price is actually probably going to work its way lower here. But then, 6-8 months from now, the price will be higher, and Goldman will say, see, I told you, we were right all along. So, let's keep an eye on this as time goes forward. And I got rid of my euro, but oh well. As I sort of talked earlier, risk off, coming off. You can see the yen's coming off a chunk here. Gold's coming off a chunk here. If we go back to things like the yen, being a buyer up here, on its own, probably not the best idea. I do see AB equals CDs. We stabbed into those levels and price was rejected, so we're going to take that off the table. But as it stands right now, is this such a great place to be a buyer of yen? I don't think so. And of course, I've been talking to you guys recently. I would love to be hunting, and if any of these markets do get up into these windows and start topping out, I think I might start entertaining buying put options. But I had that 3-chart matrix of the yen, gold, and bonds. I'll have to go and find it again. But in essence, stabs up into this area here would be excellent shorting location in my opinion. So we'll keep an eye out for that, and you can think AB equals CD. It looks like price wants to get up into there anyway. And then, counterparts, the bonds. And it's interesting because we actually did have a 4-hour bond algo buy signal come in, and the market worked its way up pretty nicely off of that. I think I have that chart. Yeah, that's right here. So that's just working away. It got up pretty darn high. I mean, I suppose if we start doing like Grimm's application of bot rules to the trade, something along those lines. Well, let's go. We don't need 25. And we can reverse this around. All right, so 50% of the anticipated move. I think it's a good idea to move stops to scratch. 66% of the move, you can start locking in profits on this pullback and then push to new highs. I think you could make the argument that you could lock in profits against that low. We just pushed to new highs, pulling back. If this low gets tripped up, then I think probably the trade's done. If it can paint a higher low and turn back up, then I think the trade's still working away. So I think that's sort of the state of the algo on bonds. And as I said just a moment ago, we are technically now back up into reload zones. Couple cheeky gaps just up top here. I don't know how comfortable I feel about hitting this just yet. I suppose what I would ideally like to see is just a nice double top. You can see it's sort of a V top right now, so I'd love to see like a nice M come in here. But really, honestly, I'd like to see the market push up, hit this algo signal level, fill in these gaps up top here, and then roll over. That would be sort of ideal scenario, but who knows? A girl can dream. So that's sort of the situation going on in the bond market right now. Gold market, interesting that gold just can't seem to get its act together. And, maybe this is, again, remember I talked about Druckenmiller trades in gold from a couple of years ago. Maybe this is a similar situation. So, if the Brexit event comes along, and as it stands right now, reload zones have to be drawn off of these lows. You can see where that reload zone is. So you can see the market symmetry study. Geez, it sure is following along that pretty well. But we'll remove that for now. I think on balance, like you see on the screen, I think we had basically a head and shoulders here develop. I'm not sure whether I would call this the shoulder of that pattern. That's a tough one. I don't know. But same sort of conversation that about yen and bonds and stuff. I mean, ideally I wanted to see the market get back up into this area, and if I'm not mistaken, if we look at things like GLD, there's some gaps up top. Yeah, so there was this gap. This was the gap I was sort of shooting for, wanting, hoping that would get filled in, but they just couldn't get the market back up there, which kind of bums me out. I suppose you could argue potential fractal top coming in here, but I'm wondering, like I said with Druckenmiller, I wonder, because his great trade on the gold was back through that election. Where the hell is that? Jeez, I can't believe that's 2 years ago now. Where does the time go? So that was right through here. I got a sneaky suspicion this was Druckenmiller's gold short. This was the election. And I wonder whether we're going to get sort of a situation like this again develop through that Brexit event. Maybe we get like a big dump in the British pound, goes right back down to those lows. Gold takes off like a rocket, and it does nothing more than just rally right up into a shorting location. So fast forward to today, I suppose our similar trend lines would be something along these lines. Pretty steep. So, maybe we get like a softening through the middle of October, risk on, stock markets work their way back up top. Then a big old sort of violent counter trend rally back up to tag reload zones on that sort of end of October event. Only time will tell. I mean, I think any way you shake this, very well-defined top working on gold right now. Lots of levels down below to fill in. So if she does crap out, I mean, I don't think anybody here should be surprised. It's just really a question of, could I get shorts on up top here effectively? And so far I've been frozen out. Boo, hiss, hiss, boo. All you can do is try your best. I suppose on the flip side of this, because bonds, yen, and gold all risk off. So risk on trades, what do they sort of look like now? Stock market up and down like a horse drawers, of course. We had the big dump following that end of September pivot that we were sort of looking for. We dumped into probably reload zones and stuff off of this range. And we're enjoying a nice little counter trend rally right now. Like I said, I lost all my charts. I have to reload them. But, the cycle-wise, the end of October is sort of what we were thinking. So, if anything, I kind of like the idea of risk off, comes back down, risk on. We might even rally right back up top. I remember there was reference to cheeky little gaps up top here that need to be filled in. And then into end of October, very typical. We have one more sort of sloosh down below. And then, if she really is going to fall apart, that's where you'll see it. I still have my 2 puts on. And I might even consider adding to that trade should we rally back up to that reload zone, right? If I go down to, hourly chart. And this is the futures, so I think the SPY shows the gaps a little bit better. So on the SPY, there's that cheeky gap. There was that original double top. My hunch is, this candle peak, this original market structure fail level. My hunch is resistance is somewhere up in this area here. V bottom, dead cat bounce. So at some point we probably need to come back down and test these lows. It's just not today. And fast trend lines, might even say something along those lines. So right now we've had a jump back above the trend line. Probably, if you are thinking long, probably look for some sort of consolidation in here. Remember, Fed minutes coming out Wednesday. Market will probably consolidate into that. And then we either AB equals CD our way back up top, or we M out and roll over. And just to finish off that thought, this is 50% levels. And ideally I'd like to see so reload zones just so happen to line up with that, a breakdown, that peak, all this area up in here. So ideally, and of course never works out ideally, but if we're really lucky we get some sort of consolidation like that, then I can go and add to the trade. So we'll see how that goes. Only time will tell. Same thing with NASDAQ, dead cat bounce off the lows. And this is the one that's actually most interesting to me here is, does crude, because crude's been sort of considered like risk on, does it sort of ultimately, it did fill in, the big, conspiracy gap, tinfoil hats. Then there were these cheeky 2 little gaps down below, and sure enough the market had to go down and fill all of those in. So has the market hit the reset button? Could crude enjoy a nice little counter trend rally, kind of like we said, risk back on excuse me, scenario? You can see a very wide, ugly fractal down here, so I'm definitely not going to consider this pretty. And you can see that, sometimes, markets will do these really ugly V bottoms, just really messy. So, I suppose if I was hunting longs, maybe take a real good look somewhere down in this tail here. You can see where the bottom of value is just looking at this level. So, right into that tail would be a really great trade location. But that's not here today either. Today is back to risk on. So all of these risk on assets are catching nice bids here. Okay, so that basically is your broader market summary. Didn't really see anything stock related specifically that caught my attention. Other than I'll say that North American Palladium, the stock was actually halted today. So by the company itself. So I did report that I let some of it go. Probably, isn't that interesting? So it backed down. So it did come out of the earnings. I did let some of it go here just underneath this 1961 price objective. And here we are sitting at 1961 right now. So all in all, again, if we're seeing the metals and the risk off coming off, I think probably I'm feeling okay about letting this go up top here. Other than that, geez, I just haven't seen a heck of a lot to get excited about in the stock market. Probably what kind of pisses you off is the stocks that are running are the stocks I wasn't able to get into. So this was one of the stock that I was really interested in down here, and it just keeps making new highs. Boo! Drive you crazy. But there's not much I can do about that. And everything else is just sort of really wishy-washy here. Nothing really has got my attention. We did enjoy nice rallies off the bottom there, so things have sort of bounced back a good chunk. If anything, what I wanted to just comment on, and this has got to be a shout out to Zach, because Zach just last week was like, Overstock's come back down to the bottom end of the range. Should we take a look at it again? And it's starting to tick back up here. I don't know. I don't know whether I really, didn't have any bottoms on. We looked at Riot, Novogratz's stock, Galaxy. We looked at HUT 8. Didn't see anything there to get excited about, like sort of crypto stock wise. I think maybe I'd be inclined to just wait for some sort of W to try and form here. Right now, I think all we're doing is working off of a V bottom right now. So yes, I think that there's probably a trade here. And I like how Zach was thinking, hey, we came right back down to the bottom end of the range. Should we think about going and buying this back? I'm humming and hawing. And right now I'm just sort of like, well, let's, I'm from Missouri. Show me a nice W here, please. So that's sort of the state of stocks. I don't see a heck of a lot to get too excited about here right at the moment. It's just a big humming and hawing and doing nothing. All right, so let's head on over to the old corn. As we sort of looked at our weekly price chart, and I find it funny how when you look back in hindsight, you're like, son of a bitch, it did it again. So, there is the 50% level sitting at about 8,500. We came down. We actually overshot it. Last week we came back. We rallied to just above the 50% level. Then we actually finished the week, this weekly candle, really poorly. And what was really interesting about this was I built just a little trend following model over the weekend just for fun. And it just simply says what's the daily and the 4-hour moving average, institutional moving average relationship. And do you have any sort of objectives to be shooting for, gunning for? And so as of, I guess that's about, where is that? October 3rd at about 1 o'clock, you can see the M top came in and failed. And the market was just slowly stair-stepping its way lower. And, just operating this model, like I said, I started the analysis. Well, I mean, I started this sort of 15-minute analysis off of. I think I started it off of the daily fail, just watching the signals as we went through this phase here, and I was exceedingly pleased with the results. And then and then through the weekend again. Just a slow drip, meltdown, meltdown, meltdown. Very pleased with the results. Then last night came along, and basically the algo, or it's not really algo. I cheekily called it the IWBADT. I want to be a day trader setup. But last night, oh my goodness, it just got absolutely torn apart. So we booked, and I went to bed last night. So this is another sort of, better vet this out in real time to see, what would happen. But in essence, one full loss stop out, one stop out where it did hit 50%. So you moved your stop to scratch, and then one full stop out. So loss, scratch, loss, ouch. And then on the New York kill zone open this morning, because keep in mind the 4 hours are still technically pointing down, we had another little fractal fire, and then boom, see you later. So, it is a work in progress, but clearly the bear through this past, 12 hours is definitely coming into question here. And I guess, the way I sort of think about this is the 50% level is just sort of acting as that oscillator magnet now. And if anything, I think what's probably going to happen, kind of like last week's price action, is we lost the 30 SMA on the weeklies. Now that's actually going to act as resistance. And gee whiz, 30 SMA sitting right there. Do we have a number on that? Oh god, look at all these moving average numbers. I can't even see which one it is. I think it's this one, 84.9420. That just so happens to be just underneath that 8,500. Really the question now is, can we accept back above the 30 SMA? And if that's the case, then 13 EMA should act as resistance. So kind of like what Sjord was talking about there earlier, I think for this, momentum trading model, you can see how closely the 4 hours could turn back up. We seem to be accepting higher. We are making higher highs and higher lows. So if this turns back up, then we'll have to print one of these green candles, which means that this whole trading model is just on pause again. And if anything, if you're hunting short trade model trades, it should make sense that if this 4 hour turns back up in earnest, then these kind of trades are going to be stopped out. What I was a little surprised at was to see multiple trades all along the line all get stopped out. But it is what it is. I'm just vetting this setup out. As Sjord sort of pointed out there a moment ago, I do like the idea that if we do have some sort of counter trend rally, we've got some pretty stiff resistance at this 8,500. And then, because I think this was a new low 77.1470, 77.33. Yeah, so it was a new low. So at best, this could be a 3-bar fractal, and kind of like what I was talking about with the US dollar index, we have to wait for this candle to finish. It's a weekly candle. We just started. If we can tick up through the highs here, and then next Sunday night, Monday morning, we tick up through that, we might actually have a little bit of a fractal bottom here. And as I said just a moment ago, at best, over the short term, what I think, and it does make sense, is, quite often you'll see markets like M out, breakdown, and then come back and kiss the underside of the breakdown level from the other side. And so if we did see that, nobody at TRI should be like, whoa, that's a surprise. That's actually pretty cliche. And notice 13 EMA is right at those levels, and all of these candle body lows and these funny little tails. So we'll see how it goes. We're trying to stop the bear slide right now, and I think that's getting close. You saw off of Sjord's charts, RSI models, all that kind of stuff. This looks like it wants to tick back up, and if that's the case, the bear is put back in the cupboard. I could very easily see what the hell was that? Counter trend rallies back up into sort of this 9,000 area. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Maybe as high as 13 EMA here, sitting at 92.47. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And actually, really hats off to guys like Daniel, who last night were reporting that they had harmonic setups coming in here, and they actually took long shots off of these lows. Congratulations, Daniel. Really nice trading. I don't know whether I would call this Gartley. 43 is kind of like batty. But nonetheless, I think 88.6. I had a nice bat. There you go. Okay, so bat. Yeah. So, this is a very respectable PRZ, no doubt about it. And, I suppose in this case, if you drill down and did you have signs of divergence here? Hopefully everybody can see the very noticeable divergence. Nice double bottom. I can actually understand the long trade right off of that level right there. Nice double bottom. Looks like it produced a 2-to-1. So congratulations to those guys who had the kahunas to step in and buy against those lows. Nice trade. Well done. And also, too, I noticed... I should probably put this back. As I had sort of said to Sjord there, I'm also noticing too that things like Litecoin and Ethereum are trying to turn. If we look at something like Ethereum, off the weekly charts, we've done, a fair amount of technical damage here. So we're still sort of like, flirting with these long-term trend lines. I know this is awfully messy, sorry. But you can see that OBV is trying to turn here. MACD is trying to turn. Not really anything from our price momentum oscillators just yet. And if we look at price itself, hopefully everybody can see, this was that inside bar we talked about. There was the counter trend rally. We came down, did a big FU, stop all the weak hands out, then a nice polite inside bar. And I know this is very busy chart here. Let's see if we can clean that up a little bit. All right, something along those lines. Geez, that's a heck of a lot of horizontal support and resistance lines, eh? So, could we inside bar here? It's totally realistic. It's probably not a very comfortable trade for me. I think probably when I look at this weekly chart, I have to say that's the top end of our current trading range, and that's the bottom. And what does our future look like? My hunch is it looks something along these lines in here. So nothing really definitive off of the weeklies yet, especially with this push to new lows. But I can understand those people that are hunting W's. It looks to me like we could have a AB, CD. So nice little push. You can see where the top of value is here. There's the original fractal failure way up there. And my hunch is probably if we do reload zones. Yeah, so you can see how the reload short zone lines up with this original trend line, top of value, AB equals CD objective. So I could easily see a move on Litecoin back up to like $200. I don't think, or Ethereum, beg your pardon. It wouldn't shock me. And then if we do the same sort of thing on Litecoin, you can see we are definitely down into reload zones. There is that weekly. Actually, this is quite a pretty one. I think we noticed this on Sjord's chart. Litecoin bottom looks relatively respectable. You can see where short-term moving average resistance is. This 13 EMA sitting at what is that, 72.30 and change right now. So if we drill down to the daily, so there is that W. I think we talked about this. I mentioned with Sjord, the two W's. And nice moving average cross there. Willie coming out of stupid. Not really a very pretty MACD bottom for me. I don't like the look of this at all. But, it is what it is. And I think you can make the argument, especially if you're aggressive. Might be an idea to wait to see whether we actually get a clothesline above here, but something along. Where's that low? There it is. There. If I change that, yeah, you jerk. Something along those lines. 2 to 1 would imply that you have to shoot for a test of these highs. I suppose that's not unrealistic. Like we did off of the Ethereum chart, probably the really easy target is the 50% roll. So that would imply you'd have to look for a move up into reload zones. So, yeah, I mean, it's a bit aggressive. The conservative target would be 50% there. And you can see 200 SMA off of this daily chart. And the trend line, which is basically like a 1-to-1. It's not enough to get me too excited. But I can see the W there. I can see it. Caveat emptor and all that. All right, so that basically summarizes what I'm seeing. As I said, I lost all my crazy altcoin charts and all my fun relationships and stuff. So I'm kind of flying a little blind here today. So my apologies. I'll try and get my act together for tomorrow. The only other thing I wanted to mention was I think it's we should just keep this in mind. What did the last fear cycle look like? And what is this fear cycle looking like? I wonder whether these rally peaks correspond with these peaks. It's tough to say. I think it makes sense why Bitcoin has found some support given this key low here. And as we sort of talked about just a minute ago, this is gold and Bitcoin put together. You can almost see like a head and shoulders here, where it goes like that, then up. And now we're here back at the neckline. As we said, we're looking for a counter trend rally to test the underside of this, which would also be a test of that shoulder there. And then if we roll over, we roll over. So, it's not a bad idea just to keep this in the back of your mind. I would prefer we actually see the market zip down into these areas, kind of like what you're seeing here. You have really wide, violent swings in price. And then into sort of next year's halvening rally, we get a big old rally off the bottom here, back up into resistance. But we'll see how it goes. And so, I think it's just, it behooves us as long-term cycle watchers just to keep an eye on this kind of chart. All right, probably not the best showing out of Brian here today. My apologies, everybody, if you feel like you got gypped. But as I said, my computer crashed, so I'm kind of flying half blind here. But I did see that, I did see, I watched, I think Sjord did an excellent report here today. Kevin, of course, just being an all-star as always. And we are at the top of the hour, so we have talked for a good hour. So hopefully I've given you some levels to think about and some ideas to chew on here. So I think I'm probably going to leave the daily brief at that today. If you have any questions, feel free to PM me. I've got 6 PMs waiting for me as soon as I'm done here. So I'll be off in PM land once Kevin and I are finished. But on balance, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'll try my best to help you. I don't know everything. In fact, I don't even know 10% of everything if I'm lucky. But at the same time, too, I think on balance, what we do here at TRI is all about slow and steady. It's all about building a plan. It's all about trying to figure out what setups work for you individually. Obviously, it's all about trying to figure out what type of risk taker you are. And then we just, we come and we just do our thing day in, day out. I don't really have any trades to report here today. My apologies for that. But I'll be hunting through the day, and if something happens to turn up, then I'll be more than happy to share with the community. So have yourselves a great day, everybody. Thank you so much, Sjord. Excellent stuff as always. All the best. And the only thing left for good old Brian to say at this point is a big bye for now.